In April 2026, 4 astronauts flew around the moon and came home. No landing, no surface operations, just a flyby. The first time humans had traveled that far in over 50 years. The world watched. NASA called it historic. It was, but it was also just the warm-up. The next 2 missions, Artemis III and Artemis IV, are where the real program begins. One will test the hardware that makes a landing possible. The other will put humans on the lunar surface for the first time since December 1972. The official story is that NASA is going back to the moon. The real story is that NASA, 2 private companies, and a rival superpower are racing to own it permanently. There are 6 things happening beneath the surface of every press release, and by the time we reach the 6th, the moon will look nothing like the destination you thought you knew. We are going to unpack why Artemis III is no longer what it was, why 2 American billionaires are fighting each other for the right to land humans on another world, why the south pole of the moon is the most strategically valuable terrain in the solar system, why China is not bluffing, why the funding holding all of this together has a knife at its throat, and why what is being proposed is not an expedition, it is a civilization. On April 10, 2026, 4 astronauts splashed down in the Pacific Ocean after 10 days in deep space. The Artemis II crew traveled 695,081 miles and looped around the far side of the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. It was a milestone. The crowds cheered. The photographs were extraordinary. An Earthrise captured by the crew showed our blue planet setting behind the moon's gray cratered limb, one of the most arresting images in years. And immediately, almost before the recovery ship had turned for port, NASA changed the plan. On February 27, 2026, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman confirmed a revised plan for Artemis III to perform tests with one or both landers in Earth orbit, with Artemis IV tentatively designated as the first crewed lunar landing mission of the Artemis program, scheduled for 2028. Read that again. The mission everyone knew as the moon landing is no longer the moon landing. Artemis III, now targeting mid-2027, will not touch the lunar surface. Astronauts will test the docking of the Orion capsule with at least one, but possibly both, of the lunar landers from SpaceX and Blue Origin. They will also test propulsion, life support, and communication systems of the landers, and test the new spacesuits that will be used on the moon. This is not a failure, it is the opposite. NASA's own safety panel had flagged the original timeline as dangerous, a mission that stacked too many untested systems into a single flight. The Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel suggested that Artemis III and subsequent missions combine too many first-time systems and operations into a single flight, and that stacking up so many untested processes materially elevates mission risk and reduces margin. So the engineers did what engineers are supposed to do. They separated the test from the landing. Artemis III becomes the rehearsal. This next Artemis mission is modeled after the test flights of the 1960s Apollo program, especially the Apollo 9 mission of 1969, during which astronauts stayed in Earth orbit, moved into and maneuvered a lunar module, then returned to the command capsule. The implication? We will not put boots on the moon until we are certain the boots can come back. Here is where it gets genuinely strange. 2 of the wealthiest men on Earth are now competing in real time for the right to land humans on the moon, and NASA is letting them fight. Musk's Starship and Bezos's Blue Moon are vying for the all-important Artemis IV moon landing in 2028. Both landers are under active development. Both must pass NASA's human rating certification before a single astronaut can step inside. Even after Artemis III, both or either of the competing space firms must also demonstrate a successful uncrewed landing and return of their lander before astronauts can use it in 2028. This is not a ceremonial competition. The stakes are architectural. Whoever wins the Artemis IV slot does not just carry 2 people to the moon. They become the infrastructure of the entire program. The lander that works becomes the lander NASA builds its future on. There is one more layer. SpaceX's Starship, the leading contender, has, as of this writing, yet to reach Earth orbit in its own operational testing. An independent assessment notes that as of early 2026, Starship has yet to reach Earth orbit, and that 11 test flights to date have had mixed success. SpaceX is also about to introduce a new version, V3, which may bring its own growing pains. The company's main commercial goal, the Starlink broadband network, runs on the same rocket, which means Starship is simultaneously a crewed lunar lander and a commercial satellite ferry. 2 programs, 1 vehicle. And the moon mission shares the queue. The implication? Artemis IV's 2028 target does not belong to NASA alone. It belongs to the development pace of 2 private companies, each with their own priorities, timelines, and incentive structures. To understand what Artemis IV is actually about, you need to understand one number. Not a budget number, a molecular one. Water. H2O. Frozen, ancient, undisturbed for billions of years in craters that have not seen sunlight since the formation of the solar system. 2 astronauts will aim for the South Polar region, the preferred location for Isaacman's envisioned $20 billion to $30 billion moon base. Vast amounts of ice are almost certainly hidden in permanently shadowed craters there. Ice that could provide water and rocket fuel. Not drinking water, not a scientific curiosity. Rocket fuel. Water molecules can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, the same propellants that power the engines of the spacecraft that got humanity to the moon in the first place. If you can manufacture fuel on the moon, you no longer have to haul it from Earth at extraordinary cost. You transform the moon from a destination into a depot, from an endpoint into a way station. The mission aims to land the crew in the lunar South Pole region, an area that has never been explored by humans. Astronauts will spend about a week near the South Pole making observations and collecting samples. Among the scientific instruments already planned, a compact seismometer called the Lunar Environment Monitoring Station, or LEMS, designed to map the internal structure of the moon's crust and mantle, and LEAF, Lunar Effects on Agricultural Flora, which will study what happens to crops grown in the lunar environment. Here is a fact that should be on the front page. NASA is already planning to grow food on the moon. The agency is not planning a visit, it is planning a neighborhood. There is one more layer, and it changes the entire frame. China plans to launch Chang'e 7 in late 2026 with the goal of landing on the lunar South Pole. That is an uncrewed mission, but it will not be the last one. China's manned space agency has publicly introduced a preliminary plan to land 2 astronauts on the moon by the year 2030. To understand this, you need to meet Norbert Schorghofer, a senior scientist at the Planetary Science Institute who studies what is actually at stake. He put it plainly: whoever controls access to the lunar surface and lunar resources will, for all practical purposes, own the moon. Not govern, not visit, own. The word was chosen carefully. China is not alone. China and Russia announced they will build a moon base together, and they have formally invited more countries and international organizations to join their International Lunar Research Station project. That coalition includes South Africa, Belarus, and Azerbaijan, among others. It is a parallel architecture to the American-led Artemis Accords, a rival treaty system that will set the norms, the legal frameworks, and the territorial claims of an era of permanent lunar presence. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman said as much on the eve of Artemis II. The clock is running in this great power competition, and success or failure will be measured in months, not years. Isaacman knows what that pressure feels like from the inside. Before becoming NASA Administrator, he founded Shift 4 Payments, became a billionaire, funded and commanded the first all-civilian orbital spaceflight, and then, in 2024, performed the first private spacewalk. He is not a bureaucrat who inherited a space program. He is a person who has floated in the void above Earth and decided the view was not enough. He wants to own the infrastructure that gets humanity further. The implication? The moon landing in 2028 is not a scientific milestone wrapped in national pride. It is a claim. The first permanent crewed foothold near the South Pole sets a precedent for everything that follows: who mines, who refuels, who decides. And yet, all of it, Artemis III, Artemis IV, the South Pole, the $20 to $30 billion base, rests on a funding foundation that is currently under assault. The Trump administration's proposed fiscal 2027 budget would slash NASA's overall allotment by 23%, targeting 40 low-priority missions. The proposed cuts include a $3.4 billion reduction to the Science Division and a $1.1 billion cut to space station programs. The lunar landing funds are nominally protected, but a 23% cut to the agency does not stop at the edges of the lunar program. It reshapes the workforce, the ground systems, the mission support structures that make a moon landing possible. There is one more layer to this. NASA's own internal readiness date for the Artemis III Orion spacecraft, before it was even repurposed for an Earth orbit mission, was January 2028. The agency has already been accelerating production to hit a mid-2027 launch. That acceleration costs money. Every month the schedule compresses, the cost per month increases. The question no one can answer with certainty: whether the political will to fund this program will outlast the next election cycle, the next budget negotiation, the next headline. History answers this question ominously. For decades, presidents flipped NASA priorities back and forth. George W. Bush proposed sending crewed missions to the moon and establishing a base there. Barack Obama canceled that effort. Early in his first term, Donald Trump created the Artemis program. Each reset costs years. Each year lost narrows the margin. Zoom all the way out. What is being built, if it works, is not a moon base. It is a proof of concept for the permanent habitation of worlds that are not Earth. The crewed Artemis missions will keep coming, helping to establish a lunar base by 2032. Astronauts will live and work at this outpost for a long time, teaching NASA the skills and techniques it needs to make the next giant leap to Mars. Not a flag, a base. Not a visit, a technique. Everything Artemis IV proves: how to land, how to live, how to extract water from regolith, how to keep a human being healthy in 1/6 gravity for weeks at a time. Every one of those answers is a prerequisite for Mars. And Mars is a prerequisite for the kind of species that can survive the eventual end of a single planet. The moon is not the endpoint. It is a gateway. The first crewed landing matters, but the second, third, and permanent missions matter more. Sometime in early 2028, if the rockets fire, if the landers certify, if the budget holds, if the geopolitical pressure keeps the program funded, 2 human beings will descend toward the lunar South Pole in a vessel built by a private company, guided by instruments designed to find ancient ice, wearing suits tested in Earth orbit just months before. They will touch down, they will step out, and somewhere near the equator, in permanently sunlit terrain, Eugene Cernan's boot print will still be there, undisturbed, waiting. It was never a monument to an ending. We just weren't ready to understand it as a beginning. Now, perhaps, we are.